I'm a recent grad from the School of Business. I just finished my fourth year, BBA 2020. And I was the founder of Chatting Wellness, which is a social enterprise that combats senior isolation through youth companionship. I founded it actually the year I became president of SEC. It was the summer of my first year, and I was president in the second of my, I was president in my second year, so right when it started. So these two things went really hand in hand. And yeah, so Chatting Wellness, what we've been doing since I started in university. I was running it pretty much part-time, and it was a very like philanthropic, nonprofit type of thing, where it's just about helping seniors and managing the logistics of it. It was never really a business, so to say. It was just kind of like a community group type of thing, just looking at help. And we helped a lot of people. Early 2020, we surpassed over 3,000 chatting sessions. We're doing over 300 of these one-on-one in-person chatting sessions every single month. We're in 8 cities across Southern Ontario. And this is all like part-time, on the side and building a good team, just kind of, for the sake of helping. And since COVID-19, we, went online and I started focusing on it full time after I graduated. So for the past 3 months, we've scaled exponentially. Honestly, we went from just in-person visits to a couple of retirement residences in Southern Ontario to being available all across the country for any senior over the age of 50 over the phone. And we went from a team of about 30 volunteers to what is a potential of over 700 volunteers. So that's really nice. And we've been featured in CBC, Global News, CTV, Huffington Post, Toronto Star, and a variety of other news medias, along with like government media and members of parliament and things like that. So we're getting a lot of attention over the last 2 or 3 months. Honestly, for me, it was really just being enabled and empowered by the resources available to feel more confident in my abilities of achieving, something in general, right? One of the big resources that was almost the most valuable thing to me from my time at Schulich was the professors and the faculty and staff we had on hand. I could literally just take a class with a professor I found really interesting and just talk to them afterwards and go to office hours and build a great relationship. And a lot of what I really liked about Schulich was that almost all of our professors, I think pretty much everybody, even lecturers, are people who are experienced in the industry. They're not just like teachers, they're people who are professionals in their space of nonprofit, of entrepreneurship, of marketing, of accounting, whatever. And so you go to them and you get advice, and you are getting advice from a really strong business professional. So for me, that was like invaluable. I built great relationships with my marketing profs, my entre profs, finance, and just a variety of other people. And they gave a lot of advice, and they acted as mentors in a way, and as advisors for me personally, as well as for Chatting Wellness. I think that was one of the most valuable things, was the learning outside of class, and really taking advantage of the great staff that we have on hand at Schulich. In my first and second year, I was actually really opposed to the networking thing. I didn't really realize how important it was, and even today, I would still be opposed to what it was back then. So let me explain to you. So back in first and second year, and a lot of first and second years will relate to this, like networking was basically just those big circle events where it's like one recruiter and there's like 100 people around them. And I hated that, and I still wouldn't do those today. But I just felt like it was ingenuine until I realized what networking and building relationships and connections really was. I just took it a different route. And so I just started talking with people, like, for example, the professors after class, during office hours, or booking time with Career Advising Center, or just asking people to coffee, right? Because I didn't like that group environment. So for me, if I was going back to my first or second year, it would have been to start networking as soon as possible. And redefining what networking meant to me, because again, I still don't like that big circle environment, but building relationships is invaluable. There's so many people from Schulich now who, whenever I have a problem, I can just send one email and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And they send me back all this info, and we've gone over a huge hump that might have taken me months to solve. That's invaluable stuff. You can't buy that sort of thing.
So like fostering that support system, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot of incredible people. It's not just people who are teaching or faculty, but it's the guest speakers. It's the people that are mentioned in class. It's, other students, honestly, like second, third, fourth years, people who are a little bit ahead of you are invaluable. Everyone is willing to help. It's just about kind of having the confidence and not being too afraid to ask, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like for everyone that's kind of watching, just start networking now.
Yeah. Can you define networking a little bit? It's kind of like a gross word at some point, and I can understand that. I had that feeling too. Just define it as like building relationships, right? It really has heightened the negative experience that seniors have. So previously to COVID, seniors are still very isolated and alone, and that's what drove me to start Chatting to Wellness was that there's a huge amount of abandonment, isolation, and loneliness in seniors, and that had detrimental effects to their mental and physical health. Of how there's a lot of studies behind it. Just, a couple about how loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, or how seniors with the lack of a strong social circle had a 60% increased risk of getting early onset dementia. And and there's a bunch more to it, but it's like, it's such a simple problem to solve, which is loneliness, is like having someone there, but it leads to all these negative health effects. And so that was already there. That was already a big problem. And with COVID, now seniors who previously were engaged in their community are still getting visits and visiting people. Now they all of a sudden are in the same situation as those who are lonely or isolated or abandoned. And so now the whole market size, I hate defining it that way, but the amount of people who are suffering from this is massive, right? So even more people, even within a home or outside of a home, because we're available to any senior in or out of a home, are experiencing this, right? So now there's a lot of eyes on it and a lot of attention on it. And so we're there to kind of solve it as experienced people in the industry who've been there for quite some time. And for Chatting to Wellness, it's really forced us to kind of adapt and really understand our product and really understand what we do best for our people. It wasn't the in-personness of it. It was what we're saying and how we're talking to seniors, how we're engaging them, how we're getting them, excited and talking and sharing and healing in a way as well, right? So for us, it's really been realizing that, this market or this space has been a lot more affected, and there's a much more of an issue than there was even before, and how we can address those in new and innovative ways to reach those seniors and help those people in need. We're not a tech company, so innovation might be a little on a smaller scale. But I think one of our biggest innovations honestly happened with COVID, right? And I'm sure a lot of businesses are going to start saying this because you kind of forced to innovate at that point. Well, before COVID, we were doing in-person sessions. We were scaling a lot that way. We're doing a lot of those like in-person. We go to the retirement home, we speak with senior one-on-one. And for obvious reasons, we can't do that anymore. And so when we had to send out an email to all of our partners and all of our volunteers and everybody, we can't do it, we're stopping, right? We're pausing for an undisclosed amount of time. We went like 2 or 3 days and we're like, well, there's nothing here anymore. We're not doing anything else, right? That was our main offering. And for a minute, I was like, okay, I guess we're kind of done, right? And then that still, that passion still kind of stirred up in me. I was like, no, this is still a problem. We can do it in another way. And so we took what was in-person sessions and made them online. And you think it's really easy to just kind of be like, hey, don't go somewhere, just pick up the phone. But there's a lot of challenges in the back with infrastructure and safety and blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff we had to do to adapt to be more digital, right? To be more online and get rid of the negatives of our previous program, or maybe not negatives, but like the things that we couldn't do anymore, and implement new ways of doing things. And one of the great things about that was that because we got rid of one of our factors and one of our limitations in a way and adopted it with something else, which was in person to now over the phone, all these avenues of opportunity opened up for us. So now we're like, okay, well, why are we restricted to Southern Ontario? Let's do all across Canada. So we have people from all across Canada calling us. And we said, okay, well, why can't we do even the US? And so even to your answer of like, what's next? I mean, that's a very viable market opportunity for us. Like we're looking into the US and saying, okay, well, it's just over the phone. Seniors are seniors. Everyone speaks English. It's simple. Well, it's not, but you know what I mean? That's also one of those things. And so I really was, it's a bad way to say it, but I was really glad that we were forced to shift because it opened up a lot more opportunities for us. Going into the future, one of the things was addressing new markets. The US is obviously one, but we've had a lot of people. We are available in nearly every single language, so we very much could expand to internationally to different continents and have chapters and versions of us there as well. But our big focus right now is partnering with the corporate heads of retirement, long-term care, and senior living spaces, and implementing our program across the board and making it a standard for senior care, residential care, and just senior living in general, because the necessariness of it on health is so much, right? Like you have to have something like this. Which I mean, when I was the co-president of, well, it was York Entrepreneurship Society. It was the same. It's called York Entrepreneurship Society at the time. One of my big missions, and it was like the driving force of it, was like we wanted to enable entrepreneurship in the Schuylkill community, because it was very much just like all you heard was accounting, which is just fine and dandy, but like entrepreneurship is also very viable. And so, I encourage anybody who's listening, has that kind of passion or that just like that interest to give it a shot. Like give it a shot, try it out. If you fail, that's honestly just makes a great story. I've had a lot of failures before Chatting to Wellness that I talk about in interviews, and even more than Chatting to Wellness sometimes. So do that, reach out to people, ask for advice. Everyone's a lot nicer than you may think, and more than happy to help out, and people can reach out to me directly if they need to as well.